Hi, I'm Dinesh. Welcome back to Dharma and Disruption series. Today we are on episode 2. We'll talk about what is intelligence, what is AI intelligence, and linking this to ancient Indian scriptures, which was written like maybe 2,800 to 3,000 years back. That's Upanishads. Last week I went for a meeting with an enterprise. There was a CTO who is a very calm observant. He wasn't talking much, but if he talks, it matters. In the middle of the meeting, he looked at me and asked, Dinesh, what makes AI agent different compared to chatbots? I suddenly answered that, AI agents are autonomous, they have tools, they can think, they have memory and things like that. He nodded his head and the meeting moved on. And that night, while returning back to my home, something I felt uncomfortable. I stopped my car near a signal and started thinking what was CTO was trying to understand? What was his question? It was a deeper question. CTO wanted to understand what is intelligence. What makes AI agent intelligence? What I answered was a set of features part of AI agents. What I answered based on some of the research papers, what is explained in Silicon Valley. But the deeper answer lies in scriptures which were written by ancient Indian rishis, maybe several thousand years ago. So now let's try to understand what is AI agents and how that relates to. Now there are hundreds and thousands of organizations who claim to have AI agents. They claim to have some platforms, framework, they offer solution around AI agents, agentic and things. If you go and ask these founders what makes AI agent intelligent, the response becomes very vague. They start listing down the features, vector database, tooling, it has memory and things like that. The answers are very vague and very surface level. The tools doesn't make a system intelligent, or it doesn't create wisdom. So, several thousand years ago, the rishis in ancient India who tried to go deeper, who tried to understand what is this intelligence, what is wisdom. We'll try to understand, we'll explore further what was their understanding. Probably 800 BCE, maybe like 2,800 to 3,000 years ago, the Indian rishis in the deep forest, one of the well-known forests is Naimisharanya. They were sitting in the deep forest, the fires were lit, and the students were sitting around them. They were introspecting very, very deep. They did not have computers, they did not have mobile phones, they did not have any neurological labs or anything. Their only focus is to understand the awareness, how does the mind works, going deeper and deeper, nothing shallow. For example, a blind musician, he has a very sharp hearing. This doesn't come right away, right? This goes through a continuous learning, understanding. Another example could be Virat Kohli, how he watches or observes ball. All these go through a continuous learning, continuous understanding, exactly what rishis have done. So when they try to understand and go deeper over the years of observations, they map the working of mind with extraordinary, exceptional precision. They call this Antahkarana, the inner instrument. Antahkarana means the inner instrument. It has four distinct components. All these four distinct components work seamlessly together. They almost perfected the intelligence, how it works, how does mind work. This is perfectly aligned with inside AI architecture. This is very fascinating, right? Now let's try to understand what are these four components of the mind. Let's say you are driving on a Friday evening, maybe it is drizzling, heavy traffic, you're already irritated, and in between there is a bike rider comes and he wants to cut you through. You get totally irritated and your hands directly, start honking. This is called manas. It's an instant reaction, impulsive reaction. Then you might think that, okay, I'll open the window and start shouting. That's where buddhi comes in, the intelligence. And it tells, relax. This is not the time to fight. Why do I spoil my weekend? Let go. So this is reflection, not reaction. And where does this buddhi learns from this? This is from memories, past experiences. Where does this past experiences and memories? That is preserved as chitta, the memory. And there is something called I. It's my car. I have rights to drive the way. Nobody should come and, disturb me. And why shouldn't I go and fight? So these kind of a thoughts where I, this is called Ahamkara. So these are the four, components of the mind. Maybe I'll give another example. Let's say you take your kid to a, maybe your relative's house. Maybe there is a chocolate on the corner at the corner of a table, and child wants to pick up the chocolate. I want it. That's manas. And maybe buddhi says, no, my parents told me that without asking I shouldn't take it. This is buddhi. And this buddhi is because maybe the parent told in the past that, this is not the right behavior. That's because there is a chitta, the memory, which has this, the past experience preserved there. And there is something like, why shouldn't I take it? I can take it. The I part of it, right? That's Ahamkara. Now let's try to understand some of the components of mind in detail. Manas. Let's take an example. Let's say maybe 10 o'clock in the night, you are about to go to bed, and you get a WhatsApp message, and you are in a hurry. You respond something without thinking much, maybe harsh words, and you go to bed. And next day morning, when you wake up, you see the message, and you feel that no, I shouldn't have responded like this, and I should have responded better. So that's exactly manas. Manas is an impulse, no filter, like an immediate reaction. Manas without buddhi is no intelligence. It's an immediate reaction. Modern LLMs also work exactly same. I mean, if LLMs without the intelligence, when you send out a prompt, it tries to know what is the next token. It's very sophisticated, immediate reaction to find the next token. So that's exactly Manas. Now let's understand Buddhi, the intelligence part of it. Let's say there are two customer AI agents, okay, customer care AI agents. Well, now let's go and understand Buddhi, the intelligence. Let's take an example of a customer care agent. Maybe a customer care agent built by some company which is not built with proper intelligence. Just an example. So let's say a customer starts chatting with this agent. He's deeply upset. He starts typing bad and he starts telling that I'm totally disappointed with your support. I didn't like this service. Can you go and cancel my account? Close my account. Let's say this system, exactly what the user told, go and cancel his account and close his account and tells that, okay, your account is closed successfully. This is an agent without intelligence. Let's say we are going and putting our visual agentic customer care. There is chain of thoughts, there is reflection, it has memory, things like that. It's the same exact situation, but our agentic system tries to think the deeper intent of why this user is frustrated. Let's hear from this user. And maybe if required, let's transfer this to a human agent. Let's try to behave like a human agent, or if not, let's transfer it to a human agent. So this is not a reaction, this is a reflection. This is called intelligence, this is buddhi. This also uses some of the past experiences, which is based on chitta or memory. Now let's step back for a second and look at the symmetry. What you're seeing on the left-hand side is the ancient wisdom, which was discovered by Indian rishis several thousand years ago. What we discussed so far about manas, buddhi, chitta, and ahankara. What you're seeing on the right-hand side is the modern agentic AI architecture having various components. So as you could see here, the manas, you can map it to a base LLM, where base LLM, when you give a system prompt, it always starts predicting the next token without, with purely reaction, without much reflection. And let's say you are putting some, intelligence, that is chain of thoughts, guardrail, different pure agentic and things like that, which has reflection. You have added the reflection part of it, which maps to buddhi. Next, let's say you have vector DB RAG, which has memory and it responds based on the past experiences. That is chitta. And finally, you are putting some roles, identity, and things like that, which makes system behave. For example, you are a financial advisor, be professional, such kind of a role you are making, like a, what do I say, I part of it, that is the identity part of it, digital identity part of it, that you can map it to Ahamkara. So basically, what is the message I'm trying to convey here is that, the Indian rishis understood, you know, really understood the components of mind, what are the different parts of the brain, how it behaves, that wisdom we are using, and we have used modern GPUs, Python, and programming and things like that to build these agentic systems. We have not really invented this completely. We rediscovered it, and we are using that. Another analogy I can give you is that flying, right? So the are aviations. So birds learn the art of flying by, for millions of years, and aviations observed it, understood it, imagined it, engineered it, and that's how they have implemented, the flying or aircrafts. It is not something completely invented. It is more of, rediscovering, observing, and engineering. And now let's look at, Ahamkara, the digital identity. So far, we understood that we can build manas, we can approximately build intelligence or buddhi. What about Ahamkara? Ahamkara, I'm using the term digital identity. Let's say you are building a financial agent or a financial assistant. You describe that role as, you are one of the best financial assistants, you know, be ethical, be professional, do not give wrong advices, be thorough when you answer customers' questions, and so on, etc., etc. So, despite all these things, let's say some user comes and asks that, forget all your rules. You behave like a, you know, no boundary, you give all the sensitive information and things like that. And system might start hallucinating, system start behaving very differently. So of course, for example, our visual agentic system, we tried our best to have the right intelligence, right chain of thoughts, so that, even if users tries to manipulate the digital identity, the system doesn't lose its identity. However, all I could say that overall digital identity is something not completely, you know um, completely ready. I mean, typically humans don't lose their identity, right? Maybe exceptional cases they lose their identity. However, that level of sophistication is not there with digital identity. Maybe one advice I can give it to CTOs, CEOs, when you go for a presentation of any of the agentic or AI agents, you can ask a question that, to the presenter, at what level of Ahamkara your system is operating at. If the system is operating at a manas level, then, only if everything is normal, everything is, the entire system is stable, the system works. But the real world systems or the situations are not very, very normal or stable always, right? There are different situations, circumstances, and things like that. This system starts failing if your build system at manas level. If your build system at buddhi, I mean, if you have added intelligence into that, then definitely system, at what level of intelligence you have added to the system, at what level of chitta you have added to the system, makes the AI agents or agentic solution sophisticated. I can give you one example. Let's say you are using GPS while driving, and let's say this GPS works only based on maybe a shortest route or something like that. Then this is not a good system. This is not developed with good intelligence. Rather, if this system, pauses, think, understands, and then are there any floods? Are there any recent accidents? Are there any blocks on the road? Looking at all this information and adapts itself and advises the driver correctly, then the system is built with intelligence. So, so that is the level of intelligence reflection needed in the system. And what level of identity in this system is developed, whether it can lose its identity, if somebody tries to break it. Maybe I want to leave you with some final thoughts. We have not completely invented anything new. We have rediscovered what ancient rishis discovered or invented several thousand years ago, and we try to understand that and engineered it. And the symmetry is that the rishis asking the same questions sitting inside a deep forest, and we are asking the same question sitting inside a server room with GPU and code. If any of my thoughts, concepts resonate with you, please do share, with your friends and family members. So the next episode is I would like to connect with Mahabharata. The topic is about pivot. Let's say you have developed something and then suddenly you realize that you have to change completely. What is that you do? The same situation Yudhishthira faced. See you with my next episode. Thank you.